Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Taboo Talk with Sarah, the podcast where we break the silences, foster hope, and have the tough conversations we're not having but probably should be. If you're new here, I'm your host, Sarah Jordan Ross. I'm a wife, a mum to three amazing boys, and a longtime advocate for honest, heart led healing. The space where we get real, raw, and sometimes a little uncomfortable, but always with the goal of helping you feel a little more seen, heard, and connected, because that's when healing happens. Today's episode is special because I'm joined by someone whose work I've admired from afar for a little while and whose heart I absolutely adore, Jenny infante-reyes. And I just said her name wrong, but that's okay. We'll
That's
go with
okay.
that.
She's young too. I'm an infant. That's
Yeah.
fine. No worries. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate this and what we're going to talk about today. So thank you.
Yes, we're diving into something that many of you will relate to, the messy middle. And why we're doing that is when we were on live a couple of weeks ago now, talking with Debbie and Karen as well, we said we really need to have that conversation about the messy middle. So that's what we're going to do today. And we might start with getting Jenny to share a little bit of your story. So, what got you started? Because you've built your brand story, which is really beautiful.
Thank
But
you.
I know that didn't all happen overnight. So,
No.
what did your own messy middle look like?
Yes, no, thank you. I was once a corporate person as well. I want to say it's been 2 decades now. That tells you I've been I started working right after graduation. I graduated, and my mom shared with me, and I know people laugh and they're like, well, congratulations. You've got 1 week to find a job because we're taking your allowance out. And, I was just new graduated. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that. So I took the first job that I could find that was willing to pay me, lasted about 3 months when I realized I wasn't really, it was a job that had me in very stockings and pencil skirts every day. And while I love the people there, it wasn't the work that I enjoyed. And I went into fast moving consumer goods because I had a professor that kind of recognized my potential, my marketing professor, and he's like, come and join us. And so I don't know if Reckitt Benckiser is big in Australia, but I handled products like Lysol and some other home care products there for a while, got my marketing and branding start there, and then moved on into a company called Unilever, which I feel is more recognized. And I did from home
Yes.
care, I went into skincare, and that was a little bit more of an established community and company. And I handled the skincare there. So that was Vaseline and Pond's. And by the time that I hit my biggest project, which was Dove's campaign for Real Beauty, I was part of the team that helped kind of launch that into the world. I was
Great
also
campaign.
Oh, it's a great campaign. I wish I could take credit for what's happening now, but it's nothing that's happening now is anything that I've done. But when we first launched it, I was, that I can say I was very much a part of. I was also newly married at the time. And with a big campaign like that, that's global and regional, and you're trying to, execute it in your market, I was working about 18-hour days, and being newly married, 18-hour days, the joke with my husband was either he's sleeping too much or I'm working too much, because I would come home and he was asleep, and I would wake up and get ready to go to the office and he was asleep. So, although I knew it was really the work, it was something that I didn't love in terms of like, this is no way to start a new marriage. Thankfully, he's still with me. We're 20 years married already, so so we're still there.
Well done.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and so I decided that I would leave corporate and start my own. It started out as a wedding planning business. And I was like, I think I'm just going to plan weddings because I just planned mine. I helped my best friend plan hers. And she and I were, I was like, okay, I think let's do that. And people would look at me sideways. They would be like, you went from branding to planning weddings? I'm not understanding, but okay. Like that, let's congratulate you, because I was like, I can't live like this anymore. And then eventually, again, my best friend, she was in a similar spot, also newly married, was in corporate, was handling Johnson and Johnson at the time. Some of their personal care brands had left. And we said, maybe we can start a business with what it is that we know in terms of what's missing in the industry. So that's when your brand story first came into fruition. And so we were meeting in Starbucks and this restaurant in the Philippines that, we both love. So I'm very loyal to that restaurant because I grew your brand story in their booths there from our laptops. And so, yeah, that's it. That's exactly how it started. It was born out of a need of what we felt as brand managers were missing because we were working with agencies that had really good creatives and vision and, was very strategic. But when it came to the implementation, it would fall flat. It wouldn't translate. And then when on the flip side, we would work with, excuse me, implementing agencies as well, but they had no strategy. And so becoming the conduit in between to translate it both ways to make sure everything, would come out, bring the brand to life the way that we had envisioned it, became the business. And yeah, there was no like set plan from the beginning. It was like, well, let's try this in the middle. And oh, that was not a good idea. I think we shouldn't do that again. And let's do something different. A lot of that for a while, for a long, long while. And sometimes it still happens. And we were talking about the messy middle. There it is.
Yeah, because I always think like success is you've got all your ducks in a row and everything's going great, but it's all that other stuff that nobody gets to see. It's what's really going on. It's oh, I forgot to do that thing, or oh, my kids suddenly need stuff and work's going to have to take
Right.
a backward seat for a minute. And life gets messy and complicated and beautiful in that. So how did you said you were having trouble with being newly married and juggling too much
Yeah.
work, and that's why you started your own.
Yes.
So how did you manage that juggle then? Because sometimes having your own business, you end up working even more than you would have been in corporate, because it's not like you can just walk out the door and leave it all. So
right.
how do you handle that?
Thank you. That was we just went day by day. I mean, if I'm being honest, like there was no set plan to be like by this time we would do this, and that was a lot of it in the beginning, right? And grateful that our husbands also at the time were very supportive of this endeavor, and so they understood. I mean, back then it was just me and my husband when we started, and when we had moved to the US, then I had the kids. It was, well, what can I do from here? And so having like Chris as my business partner then, to be very supportive too. Like when she first gave birth to her baby, I took on a lot more. We built the team around us. We had about 7 people reporting to us at the time. And the two of us, again, in that, restaurant, were saying, well, if we're going to do this business, we want to be able to do it our way. And so a lot of our values was, and we told this to the team, was, you don't have to report 9 to 5 here. We have the space. You don't have to report 9 to 5. If you get the work done in 3 hours instead of the 10, then great, go ahead and live your life, right? If you had a vacation or you had to be at home. And so we were flexible that way. Now, granted, if the work wasn't done, then that's when we would start calling people in. And so we just made sure that was clear. And then we just, we would work wherever. We would say, okay, well, she had a doctor's appointment and I had to meet her somewhere. So I would go to her house and wait there. And then we would work from there, or we would make calls, just anywhere, literally any restaurant, any coffee shop. And then try to make sure that it ended by the time, my husband got home from work. But again, it was like a day by day thing. And there were days where it was like, look, we have an event. We had one of our clients, our previous employers became our first clients. And that was kind of a lucky start because, we had built the trust and the rapport there. And they were like, wait, you're leaving? We still need your help. And so we offered our services there first. And one of them, like Johnson & Johnson, would get us for their big events. And so there were 2 or 3 days leading up to the event that we would, leave everybody at home and come and work. And great, thankfully it works out and they would get us again, but it was something that we had to, like acknowledge. It's like, oh, it's a short span of time. We're going to do this for 2 nights. And then after that, we wouldn't take meetings the next day. It's like be able to take the time off. So again, nothing very pretty about it, but part of the journey.
Yeah. And you said a few times it takes a team to build the dream.
Yes.
So
yeah.
By the sound of it, you had a good team in those early days, and it really is really important.
Yeah.
And we've talked a few times about community and collaboration.
Yes. Yes.
And
I
how
do want to
important
say,
that is.
yeah, no, thank you. And I did want to say, when you said we had a good team, I was like, yes and no, because that was also a messy middle. I mean, we had a really good brand assistant that we had hired, loved her, but she eventually was saying, it was the type like, oh, I could trust her with what was going on and do my own thing, but she wanted more. And she wanted to try corporate because she had never tried corporate. She came straight into a startup. And then we had the people that stayed with us that taught us all these lessons. We trusted a lot. We trusted an accountant that kind of ran away with cash, and we trusted a delivery boy that didn't deliver. And it caused issues in between. And it was like, okay, what is it that we're not seeing? They were tough lessons, because every penny that we had earned was hard earned money that we had put together. And then we were giving benefits and, and it was like, how do we make all of this meet? But looking back, it's like, oh, that's probably why I know to ask some of these questions now. And I can't say I knew that 20, 15 years ago when it was happening. It was like, oh, we should have thought of that. Well, now we know, and to the point of our conversation, that's the messy middle. Now, when people ask me, it's like, how did you know this? I was like, well, I learned that lesson. I'm not going to forget it. But if I didn't have that lesson, I wouldn't know to do it now.
You can't know what you don't know until you're in that, which, things get tricky. We learn a lot of lessons along the way, and sometimes it's I'll try this and see if it works, and just hope that if you do fall flat on your face, you've got somebody there to pick you up, dust you off, and say, go do it again.
Right. Well, and learning to do it for yourself too. It's like, oh, that I don't know how many moments you've had to it. It's like, and they're like, okay, tomorrow we'll do it different. Tomorrow will be better. Yeah.
Tomorrow I'll recognize that brick wall before I go and run into it.
Yes. Yes. And if you don't yet, then it's like, well, then there's another tomorrow. I think that's the other thing there. It's like the brick wall is just going to keep hitting you, or you hitting it.
Until you learn the lesson.
Until you learn it. Yeah.
Now, I didn't know this before, but you're also a certified DISC behavior consultant.
Yes.
So how does understanding behavior help you navigate things? And does it alter how you show up or help you to show up more authentically as who you are? And I suppose I know a bit about DISC, but not everyone does. So can you unpack that a little bit for us? as well,
Absolutely.
because I think that will help with the how you navigate that messy
Yes.
middle, because we all do it that little different.
Yeah, thank you. So DISC is a tool. I like to say it's a personality and a communication tool that we can use to help understand our innate nature or innate way of being and showing up and how we communicate, right? And the way that DISC has, well, it's been around since the early 1920s with Dr. Marston. And fun fact, he created Wonder Woman. Also, he was the one that created Wonder Woman. I don't know if you didn't know that. And
No.
just yeah. And Wonder Woman has all the D, I, S, and C personality types in her character. So it's interesting. We'll talk about that a different day. But the way that it's situated
It's
is
really cool though.
how people are, yeah, how people technically respond to the world, whether they're more outgoing or more reserved. And again, these are tendencies, right? And then as well as how people are oriented in terms of, are they more concerned about the relationships and the people involved versus really the outcome? And many people will say that, you know, you are both, right? You are all of it. But there is a natural state and a natural mix of how that shows up. And that's how you would essentially communicate and see the world as who you are. Now, if I'm, let's say, a high S, which I am, and
Me
let's
too.
say my yeah, my husband is a high D, for instance. So a high S is someone that's very stable and very supportive and very steady. And a high S is more of your reserved and your people oriented corner. And you know, again, this is just like a very quick and dirty.
Yeah.
And then your high D is more your outgoing and you're outgoing and you're task oriented people. So he wants things done now, done well, done, you know, doesn't matter, which serves him well in his corporate role. And I'm more, I feel like the S is more of the nurturing place or the nurturing style. And so a quick example I would always give, and one of the reasons really that I decided to certify in it was we would have these conversations and, you know, it's a busy day and we would come together and I would tell him, well, guess what happened once upon a time, this and this and this and this, right? And his first reaction is, so what's your point? And and because, and I know you might experience that, you're laughing.
Yep. I'm a high S
Uh-huh.
with a little bit of I, and my husband
Yeah.
is very much a D. And
Oh,
it's
there you
the,
go.
I was just laughing because it's like, yep, I need to tell the story. And he just goes, would you just bullet point it?
so so he says, what's your point? And before I went into disc, my whole thing was, oh my gosh, he doesn't care about what I have to say. But in his mind, and here I am like ready to break down and ready to, you know, get my boxing gloves out. And here he is, he's like, I want you to get to the point of the story so I can appreciate it and do, you know, ask all these other questions. It's not like I'm not interested, but imagine we don't have disc. We're just, now there's that miscommunication, there's that conflict, there's that I'm thinking all these stories and he's thinking, it's like, what the hell happened? I wasn't not interested. but
Yeah.
I use that story a lot because it illustrates the differences. Whereas now I know it's like, oh, he's a D. I'm not going to come up to him to say once upon a time. I'm just going to go straight to the point so I can get his attention. And then he can engage with me. And if he knows who I am, he knows to ask questions and not to dictate things and say, well, you should do this or you should do that. It's like, well, what if you did it this way? Or, you know, because it's more gentle. And so there's a little bit more of a meeting in the middle. And so I think that that's been helpful. I mean, it's been helpful in my personal life, but also with business, because once I'm able to assess this client, I approach the conversation differently. I approach the presentation differently as well. I have a very high C client, and I'm telling you, it takes forever for us to go through any document we submit to her, any presentation, any poster. It's like I'm looking, did we dot this I correctly? Did we put the trademark here? because you have to have that attention to detail with this particular client. Otherwise, it comes back and it'll keep coming back again. So, yeah, that's been hopefully a little bit of an insight to DISC and what it supports with.
Because it really does, all of those sorts of different tools helps
Yes.
us to connect more with different people, to actually meet people where they're at. And that can be a big part of then moving the story forward.
Yes. And to acknowledge your own communication style so that you know when, I mean, I always joke because I do give workshops on DISC to corporations and to teams. And my joke is, everybody assumes I'm very outgoing. But I said, yeah, if you look at my results, it's an S and a C, and those are my two top. They're what you call a double reserve.
Yeah.
And so I will say, well, can you imagine if I was standing here in front of you and I was very mousy and going, well, today we're going to do this. I mean, everybody would fall asleep. They would rate my workshop a 1 instead of a 5. So I have to know how to access my outgoing, my I and my D, and to command the room and the space. But also knowing that after that, I probably don't want to talk to people after. I just want to go home, go under my covers, eat my chocolate bar, and be like, I'm done with everybody for the rest of the day. So the awareness that comes with it too, when to bring it out, when to use it, and what to do if it's not necessarily your most natural. Yeah.
Learning to know ourselves so then we can actually show up how we
Yes.
need to show up in any situation, but then also show up for ourselves in the way that we need to. So taking that time, you're on people overload. That's
Mm-hmm.
what it gets called in this house. Yeah. I'm an SI,
Yeah.
but yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like on a different scale. I'm what they call an ambivert. So sometimes I'm great in crowds, and other times too many people. So,
Right. Yeah.
and I can recognize now when I am on people overload, and no, I just need to go and sit and read a book, sit
Yes.
somewhere quiet, go have a bubble bath, do something that is just
Yes.
all about me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. But it took me a long time to learn that. And I'd say
Yeah.
it took you a while to learn what works for you as
Yes.
well. So,
Yes.
and we were all talking about the messy middle. So let's go a little deeper
Okay.
with that. So what's one thing you learned in that messy middle where, like, everyone talks about beginnings and how great they are, and then when we shift and transition, when we shift into something different, but
Mm-hmm.
no one talks about that actual transition process of getting from where you are to where you want to be, because
Yeah.
that's just too hard. Or the
Yeah.
stuff that happens along the way.
Yeah.
As you said, off
Yeah.
screen, you got bitten by a bee yesterday. That probably
Yes.
wasn't in the plan.
I did. Exactly. I was like, well, should I cancel today? I was like, you know what? We're talking messy middle. We're just going to come with the puffy cheeks and the bee sting. It's part of it, I feel. And I feel like that, I mean, the messy middle helps us show up, I feel, authentically. Once we talk about it, it allows people to say, oh, that is happening to me. I don't feel so alone. And I was in a networking group, just another a week ago, and a friend had launched like this women's group, and all the people that were there were talking about, well, I was supposed to go to this meeting but my kid was sick, and it's exactly what you were saying, and it's like, yep, that happens to me too, and guess what, we have to cancel and we have to reschedule. But one thing I learned, I mean, I feel like it's really just about trusting and I think I should say I'm still learning it, trusting the process. It's like, oh, that didn't go the way I had ever thought it was going to go, but we're going to trust there's something better still that's coming. And, what is the gift in this situation? What's the message? What's the gift is what I start to think of now. And then, we work through it, and it does turn out different or better than you might have expected. I want to say, never really what you had intended or planned. Um, and one thing I want to share about the messy middle that I see is really in this route of, or this journey of motherhood. I have two girls. You have three boys. I have two
Yep.
girls. Mine are teens, and a lot of what I say is that I'm always a mom first and foremost. And so they know when they need me, they can call, and it's happened where I'm in a meeting and my phone goes off. Apparently my daughter is hurt. She does color guard, and we've got to go take her to the ER because she just knocked herself with a flagpole. And so I'm in the middle of a meeting. I'm like, you know what, everybody, I'm sorry, but my daughter needs to go, to the ER. We're gonna come back. And thankfully, the clients that I do have align with those values. So they put the question first. They're like, how is your child? Because if it happens to them, I would probably say the same. It's like, you know what? We're not going to count this as one of your meetings. Let's reconvene when your daughter's fine, your son's fine. I get it. And that's part of life, right? I feel like just being able to navigate all of that and to acknowledge that it is how we all show up. Otherwise, then it would be messier, I feel, if you're not in alignment with that, right? I mean, it's messy because it's
Yes.
going through so many things, but if not, then you would just not feel congruent and not feel aligned, um and then you would just question yourself and your values. I feel like that's even harder.
Yes.
So I hope
That's
I
the
answered
thing
the
with the messy. Yeah.
question. It's like it was a little bit roundabout, but I hope I did.
No, you did. So, you know that here on Taboo Talk, I like talking about things that we don't generally talk about and shining light on that. So, what's one conversation that you think we as women, as leaders, or even just as society in general need to be having more often? What is it
Oh,
we're not talking about that we really should be?
what is it we're not talking about that we really should be? I feel like the way that we compromise ourselves still, and that just brought to mind my daughter was having a tough time during the pandemic, and I was networking the hell out of the virtual scene because I was like, I've got to keep this business alive, right? That was my thought. And so I was, meeting people, scheduling, and trying to engage for new clients. And there was this one lady that wanted, was very demanding. We've got to get this started now. But on the other side of it, I saw my daughter was falling apart because she wasn't able to connect with her friends. And I said, you know what? Let's just drop everything and let's go to the beach. And this lady had even said to me, it's like, well, if you can't meet me, I'll just take my business somewhere else. And I was at first like it stopped me in my tracks because I was trying, at that time
Yep.
everybody's like, "You've got to keep the business alive." And I was like, yeah, you know what? It's okay. Go ahead. Because I mean, again, if I just go back to the value of I'm a mom first, and
Mm.
I'm not here to, I work to live and I don't live to work. Right. And that was something that I had to play back for myself and say, you know what, my daughter needs me. I mean, physically she's okay. She's not ill, but there's something going on, and we need some time and just space to go away. So we went to the beach and we just stayed there and splashed in the waves all day. And I was like, okay, I might have lost potential business, but I feel like this was the better choice. And of course, in that moment, it was like, I'm going to lose something. And it's like, no, you know what? I'm a mom first. She needs me. There's no question about that. We're going to go. So I feel like those situations should be talked about a little bit more, where we're naturally compromising ourselves when we shouldn't be, and being able to say no, which is a lesson I've had to learn too. So I hope that's helpful for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the sometimes no is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's for such a little word, it can be really hard to say. And yeah, when we're stuck in that, ah, I'm juggling conflicting demands and
Yeah.
both are important needs. It's the, oh, which way do I go? But well done for saying my kid needs me and that's where I need to show up
Yeah.
the most, because if somebody that you're working with can't respect that part of who you are, then they're
Mm-hmm.
not your person you should be
Mm-hmm.
working with.
I
But sometimes
agree.
that's hard, particularly when we're in the I've got to get business in the door, I've got to get money in the door, because if I want to do all these things for my kids, I need that income coming
Yes.
in, and that can be a really hard
Yeah.
juggle.
Yeah. It is. It is. The juggle is real, is what I also like to say.
Yeah.
It is. Um,
Yes.
and that's where I believe that the trust train comes.
Mm.
We often feel like we've got to control things and do things our way, but then once you start to release, it's very uncomfortable. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, what do I do now? And I mean, that was in COVID, like
Mm.
20, like the middle of COVID, summer, June 2020. And I'm, knock on wood, I'm grateful that I still have clients and people that come to my door now. And so I feel like looking at it now, 5 years later, it's like, oh, I should do that more often. And I had to learn through that hard and tough and uncomfortable experience. I mean, I took my daughter to the beach and I was like, I know I should be here. I know I should be, like, I knew I should be here, but I still had to tell myself, like, I know I should be here, and this is the right decision. But now it's so easy to say, right? 5 years later, looking back, going, oh, if you just align with your values, you should be golden. But it's not so easy in the moment. And so just riding that whole trust train, um, is a lesson in itself.
Yes. The learning how to not second guess yourself, because that's something as women we do a lot,
Yeah,
particularly when we are in that messy middle of the I have no idea what I'm doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So every
absolutely.
decision we second guess it. So, but yeah, it takes time to
Yeah,
learn that.
it does. It does. Yeah, building the trust muscle.
Yes. And sometimes when we've gone through experiences where that's been heavily tested, that
Yes.
can make it more difficult.
Right, right.
Or if
That's true.
yeah, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. If I don't take care of it,
Right.
we sometimes get to the, I think you said it before, wanting to control everything,
Yes.
but then realizing that we can't,
Uh-huh.
and being comfortable with that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, if I can just share, I had in one session with a group last week, they're part of what they're doing is a book study. And one of the books called Next Level Success by, I think it's Scott Eblin, talks about how you should allow things to fail and how hard is that for us, especially if we want, I mean, if you're running a team, right? This was in the context of a manager running a team. And, one of the reasons why you get to a certain place is because of all the experience that you've shown you've gotten results. But now that you're in that place, you've got to up level and learn new things. You've got to leave the rest to your team. And how will they learn if you don't let them learn / let them fail? And of course, it's that, but I have got to deliver the results. Otherwise, they think I'm a bad, manager, and all these questions and how much control do I let go of? And so it kind of gives us that perspective of, well, failure is not our enemy. It's supposed to help us learn. And of course, in bigger companies, you don't want them to fail such that it puts the company in a bad spot. But just giving them what are the guidelines, like what are the things that you can allow them to learn for themselves and do their own way, so that everybody can succeed and it's off your plate. Because that's the other thing, especially if you talk to entrepreneurs, you don't want to just keep adding to your plate. Again, going back to the team, going back to people, who can you trust, going back to, well, I have to test this out to be able to see and then move forward from there.
I think we could apply those lessons to those of us who are mums. We could apply those lessons to our kids as well. We
Yeah.
need to teach them what they need to be independent, and then let them go. And
Yes.
yep, there will be times when they'll fall over, or they'll fall out of a tree, or they'll
Yeah. And
they'll
it's hard.
hit themselves in the head with a flagpole.
That sounds like it's hard to watch though, right? It's oh, if you had just listened to me, you wouldn't be in this situation. And yet we've got to
Yeah.
let them learn it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I made the rule with my boys. Like occasionally if they're doing something, it'll be, hey, no hospital visits.
okay.
But it's the hospital visits only happen if what they do to themselves is beyond either my first aid training or what's
Okay.
in my kit. So on the whole, it's been broken bones,
Oh wow.
or oop, that needs stitches,
Yeah.
or
Oh.
glue these days, or then we've had a spider bite. So yeah,
Oh.
can't do much about that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, my middle boy is terrified of spiders because he was bitten by one when he was really little. And then he had his appendix out last year. And my oldest boy, he was diagnosed with MS January, 12 months ago now.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'd made that no hospital visits rule before. There you go.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
But it's
that is a lot to juggle. And like how awesome you're able to
yeah,
do.
that's over 13 years.
Yeah.
Because my oldest is 13. So
yeah. Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, it's because like some of my big learnings have been around health crises and how you juggle that. So that my messy middle was how do you keep everything going when there's big challenges, or how do you work through that? So
yeah. I believe that's many people can relate to that too. Because there's always, I mean, that's the reason why it becomes messy. It's because it doesn't follow a certain path. And there are these, not necessarily brick walls, but just curveballs that get thrown our way. And they're important curveballs. A way for us to just probably take a look and reevaluate what it is that we're doing. And so it's, yeah. And here you are.
Yeah. Well, I know I started because I've been a massage therapist for 25 years.
Okay.
I started my own business in
Mhm.
January 2020.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I did say January 2020. And
Yeah.
then we ended up closing in March and a whole bunch of stuff there. But 4 years later, I was still there, we were going really strong.
Yeah.
And then when my son got sick, it was like, hang on. And we actually ended up closing that business because I knew I couldn't give everything that the business needed and be the mum that I wanted and needed to be.
Yeah.
And it was but that's our part of our reliable source of income. But it was like, yeah, but it'll work. It was
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, what am I going to do now? Oh, go start a podcast.
That's
Where
awesome.
I get to talk to amazing people like you.
Thank you. And you get to share your amazing story too, because I'm sure there are people that have had that as well to go like, oh, she had to close her business. Oh, she had to make that tough choice. That's, again, sharing it is doing the world a service, because then you're not alone. Then you know that you're not meant to do it all. And I feel like it's just one of those things that life shows us. We can't ever predict it. I mean, it's I have a mentor that says this or something better still, and so I've learned to embody that. It's like it's always this or something better still, and I tell that to my kids, and anywhere we go, it's like, okay, we want this or something better still, and we just don't know what it is, but we're open. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's important to be open, because
Yeah.
life is a gift
It
in all
is.
its facets. And even when there is grey clouds, they all have a silver lining. There's a gift in everything.
Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank
We
you.
could keep talking all day, but
I
we
think so.
probably should go do other things.
I think so too. I feel like if you turn off the recording and I didn't have other things to do, it'd be like we'd just be chatting and I'd get my coffee and all that. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. Beasting and all.
Beasting and all. See, you just showed up.
I did.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that's what it's about. Showing up
Yeah.
even when we don't feel like that, and sharing our stories, because you never know when it's your story that might be the thing that makes the difference to someone else.
Yeah.
So for everyone tuning in, if you're in your own messy middle right now, whether it's rebranding, rebuilding, or even just trying to figure out what's next, if you're going through big challenges, I hope you know now you're not alone. And as uncertain as that place can feel, there are beautiful, amazing things that come out of it. So if you've liked today's episode, then please share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Connect with Jenny and I on social media. We'll have links to Jenny and Brand's story in the show notes, so you can connect with her that way. So I'm guessing that's the way you like to connect with people most.
Sure. Absolutely. Any way I take them. But yes, that is the easiest to find me. Website, LinkedIn, Instagram. Yeah. Thank you.
So we'll have all that in the show notes for you. And you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, so you can rewatch any episodes that you might have missed or catch up on what's going on. And I would really love to know what your biggest takeaway from today's conversation is. Where are you in your messy middle? So until next time, please take care of yourself, take care of each other. And remember, the middle might be messy, but you're becoming something beautiful and with an amazing story to share. So please go share it with the world. We'll see you next time.